All right, welcome back to the Matcherino Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, game number 1 in a brand new best of 3, and most importantly, this is the first of 2 semifinal matches. Again, 3/4 of this bracket is guaranteed to be Team Liquid. We just don't know whether that third quarter is going to be Snoot or TLO just yet. But everyone at this point will receive at least 10% of the prize pool. So hopefully you guys can help us make that even bigger and better. We're currently at 800, or sorry, whoa, I wish we were at 800. We're at $186 raised for today's prize. That's not looking too bad. We had a couple of real donations. Again, shoutouts to Reims, Partouf, First Person Swede, Hard Revenge, and the Optical Speed. But if you guys want to get in on the action, I believe you can still use the code PATROL. Spelled like this, shouldn't have been used up yet. You can donate for free using that code, or alternatively, if you want to donate some real cash money, please know that 100% of the proceeds today will go to the players. We're not going to take a cut of it. Matcherino's not going to take a cut of it. We're going to make sure the players get every cent available from the prize pool. But spawning here in the top right side of Invader, it's going to be the red Protoss player, Team Liquid's MaNa.
In the top, in the bottom, in the bottom left as the blue Terran, it is Liquid Bunny. Top, bottom, whatever.
I guess it's kind of interesting. We did have to start an hour earlier due to some schedule changes where I have to go to the bank because I apparently might not have enough money to pay my taxes. I don't know. I'm going to find that out. But that point aside, I'll get that taken care of. Don't worry about me, guys. But that point aside, we did have to move it a little bit earlier, which kind of sucked. But it's funny to me because if we had started this at 10 as planned, like, we're only half an hour into the tournament in context otherwise.
Yeah, that is true. Feels weird, man.
It does.
Maybe I'll actually get some chores done.
Right? Maybe I'll get to eat lunch at a somewhat close to appropriate time instead of 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Oh,
well.
that SCV is probably going to die. Don't fight, man.
Yeah.
Fight or flight. Fight or flight.
Oh, that probably wanted it.
Yeah, he was flighting pretty hard.
So, okay. Bunny, not too worried here. Go into that for CC. And the 2 barracks behind it. Very precise gas, by the way, like a Protoss. Where are you, Protoss? 2 and 2. Yeah.
Oh.
Receiving incoming transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
ooh,
big ass donation coming in from Alaska Winter. Holy freaking shmoly. He also, by the way, donates $50 to the prize pool of this tournament.
wow.
So, $100. Guys, can everyone just take a moment? If you're a BaseTradeTV subscriber, and hell, even if you're not, throw some hearts in chat, give some love, do some Tasia claps for Alaska Winter. Let's see what the message says, though. 1 for the winner and 1 for you guys. Buy some blue dye. So do we put $100 towards blue or just 50? I'll let you decide.
What is blue at now?
66. So
Well, like second or first or...
third currently.
Put it all on blue.
Oh shit, that puts it at first then at $166.
Oh shit.
Alright, so then we also have $5 coming in from I Would Prefer Not To. He says, I vote white for Zombie Grub's hair with a $5 donation. So thank you kindly for that, sir. But okay, so I'll add that really quick before I forget, because I will forget. I've not been good about this. So that's going to bring white up to 116. Now, of course, I think Riomar is going to have something to say about that whenever he returns from his
Right?
time off.
Right?
But yeah, so this is interesting for MaNa. We're going to have disruptor drops come out of this, and I don't think this is a bad strategy at all versus Terran. I'm curious what this probe is doing, though, on the side of the map. It's worth noting most of the golds on this base or this map are still bugged, so I don't know if we'll see any of these taken. But the disruptor drop I like for multiple reasons. Obviously, in the perfect scenario, if Bunny's not paying attention, this gets a lot of kills. Cool, thumbs up. But in more likely situations, it provides pressure necessary to keep Bunny at home and unable to just push out across the map with what is most likely a 2-base all-in on this map. Because let's be honest, guys, Invader's not a good map for thirds. I would also like to point out, too, I think actually... Oh, never mind. Sorry, I misread what was going on. Yeah, he's just going to go for regular disruptor drops.
Okay. Well, yeah. So disruptor drops, interesting stuff here. Now, it really sucks is that they can just, completely catch you by surprise. If you scout it, it's actually a little bit easier. You just always have your units pre-split because there's not really a problem doing it otherwise. And, you only ever take 2 or 3 marine losses at a time. It's when you clump up like this it gets really worrying, although they are protected by a tank. Or alternatively, they just go for the SCVs, in which case, now he's been alerted.
If Bunny didn't pull there, it may have been better.
Right? That's exactly what I was gonna say. Now he's been alerted. He should be more on top of things. Like that initial surprise always gets something done. And in that case, I feel like I almost didn't do enough.
You know what the minimap looks like right now? It looks like a marine.
Shut up.
It's kind of hunched over. Like he's looking down as he takes this giant ass piss. Now I know you thought I was gonna say this looks like a penis, and I guess it kind of does with the head bit over here. But I kind of at first just thought he's taking like the world's longest piss. But now I see it differently because you've told me to shut up.
God. Okay, so 7 more SCVs went down, and I didn't expect that, but obviously Bunny didn't either.
This start for MaNa is certainly good. It gets him up a considerable amount of workers, and if you are like, again, we're assuming with the extra production being thrown down that Bunny is planning on sticking on 2 bases. This really hurts him. Like this straight up kills his ability to produce through this to the extent to which he needs it to. The Marines over here are going to be a little bit awkward as they get picked off as well. The Disruptor will fly away.
What's extra awkward about this disruptor drop thing is that this isn't a very good map for abusing airspace. Like, it really is just the front that MaNa is getting away with because there's no going behind these bases. There's rocks blocking it. Yeah. So I feel like one Viking could definitely could tell where it's coming in from. Yeah. And it's trying, but it just keeps missing.
It's hard too because the War Prism is so damn fast. MaNa did very specifically get the speed upgrade for it, so. This thing moves at like Oracle speed. Shout out to Empty Eyes. Ooh. This is the 2 Empty Eyes in the middle of his name. I think it's such a clever name. Thank you for resubbing. Thank you as well to Rage Kitty for resubbing as well. Big love to both you guys. But we got the army for MaNa. It's lacking upgrades. But what's interesting is it doesn't need upgrades. With disruptors being a rather, I'd say, valuable factor here, we'll call it. MaNa knows that he just has to hold. Like, Bunny really is committed with this. There's no intention of taking a third. He's not reproducing any more SCVs. Like, this really is, if MaNa holds, he'll be in an okay spot. His army supply is a little bit lacking, let's be fair. But hopefully these disruptors can make up that difference. Stalkers blink over to the side. They lose a Stalker, but they pick off the Viking, so not the worst trade.
It's alright. This is really scary, though, for, I actually say Bunny. There's a lot of Stalkers, there's a lot of Disruptors, a couple of Immortals to bust through those tanks. I think MaNa has a very good composition for this. And all it takes is 1, well, maybe 2 good Disruptor shots on these Marines or on the tanks.
So 3rd base is going to be abandoned, and even then, this is still okay. Because MaNa needs to fight at full strength 1 time really well. And the likelihood is that we're not going to have some awesome tug-of-war. Likelihood is either Bunny beats the crap out of MaNa or vice versa. Like, and then just continues to push to win. So Guardian Shell's going to get popped. This will help a little bit. Force Field's looking to come down. Maybe hold some of these units in place for this Disruptor hits. But they get focused down instead, and MaNa loses the ability to do anything. And Bunny turn it up.
I really thought that would go better.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Congratulations to Bunny. I want to point out, though, there's this guy in chat who's been really adamant. I don't want to give him too much attention, but, like, are there any famous players being cast here in the next 2 days? And I would say right now, dude. Like, look at these semifinals matches. You've got Bunny versus MaNa here. You've got TLO, by the way, who beat Snoot 2-0. What the fuck? Versus Keen on the other side of the semifinals. Like, I'm sorry, but if these players aren't good enough for you, then maybe you don't need to be here. Because these players are making me super duper happy and stoked. But Frozen Temple's going to be coming up next. Hop into that here in just a moment. Credit's got to go to MaNa, though. Like, I really... he didn't win the game, so I'm not going to try and make it seem like it's better than it was. But those Disruptor drops were really well handled. And I think it may have been because of the map. Withdrawing too soon may have been the issue there. Mm-hmm. Like, he really didn't force Bunny to stay at home for very long. It was like 2 big Disruptor drops, and then, nope, let's get out of here. Skedaddle.
Right. Yeah. And he had 4 Disruptors. Like, that could have been continual. I don't know.
Oh,
well?
Speaking of TLO, he's in chat, apparently. So, in before my mic gets muted for no reason. See you guys in a second on... It's the Jinx. I don't know what it is. We'll see you guys in a second on Frozen Temple. All right, welcome back. So we have, again, we touched on it a little bit at the end of that last game, but we've confirmed the third and final Team Liquid player to make it to both of these semis. So, again, we got one really awesome match going on. It's game number 2 here for the Matcherino Cup. After this, it's going to be TLO versus Keen, and after that will be the Grand Finals match, and that will be the end of the tournament. We're up to $244.50 raised for the prize pool today. If you haven't yet, make sure to go to the website and try and use the code PATROL to cash in 50 cents free towards the prize pool. And again, I really want to stress this, guys. There's no casting fees on this. There's no website fees. 100% of the money from this is going to the players. And it's all of these guys have actually competed in Matcherino enough that they can all verify that that's the case. Getting the money from this site is super easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you're told what to do.
Yeah, once you figure it out the first time. At any rate, game number 2 underway. It was his map selection in the loser's pick scenario. On the bottom right side, we've got Team Liquid's blue Polish Protoss, Liquid MaNa.
In the top left, as the red Terran, he is Liquid Bunny.
So I want to go over a what-if scenario with you here on that last game.
Okay.
What if, instead of the Disruptors, we had instead seen Colossus? And the assumption being that, okay, 5 Disruptors are cheaper than Colossus, so let's say 4 Colossus. Do you think that fight would have gone better for MaNa?
Instead of 4 Colossus.
Instead of 5 Disruptors.
Yes, actually, I think it would have.
Right, so that's... I bring this up, not because I was just trying to bait an easy answer, but MaNa has been... we'll say experimenting and playing with a lot of different builds. He's also beaten some fantastic Terrans in the past, so that one loss to Bunny, not, I think, a big deal to him at all. But he has also been one of the few people who are using Colossus to a great extent versus Terran and really bringing it back. So I'm wondering if that... And obviously for that situation, hindsight's 2020, all this, but like I'm wondering if that would be something maybe he intends to do in Frozen Temple, because I can certainly see a lot of ways on this map in particular that you could abuse them.
So I know that 2-base tank push, however you get to it, but just, in general 2-base and you tank push with a lot of Marines, it has been tripping a lot of Protosses up, MaNa included, in a couple of different games. Like, there is at least one Matcherino where he faced... that guy, Botvinnik, haha.
Botvinnik, who was doing almost exclusively tank pushes.
Yes. And the go-to safe way to try and defend against it, although it was not foolproof, it wasn't like counter at all, was to go for Archons and Storm with a lot of adepts. So I am curious about the change. Like maybe that isn't working anymore. Maybe Terrans are actually getting so good against that composition, or MaNa just really wants to, just. Because he's tried that before, and he's lost using that composition as well.
There is an interesting dynamic, though, that I want to bring up with Bunny, too. And I don't know if he'll go for it again this game. But when you stick on 2 bases, and the fact that he even opens with a Cyclone kind of tells me he wants to play defensive and maybe play 3. But before I get too far ahead of myself here, when you stick on 2 bases, Terran haven't really had a lot of all-in options in the past that have been effective, right? Like, what changed in the early game? Because Marines weren't buffed, medevacs weren't changed, tanks were... okay, tweaked a little bit with the medevac pickup, but for the most part, a lot of it has to do with the way production works. And if you're somebody who gets caught off guard by Terran being up 40 supply, you're losing to their production. You're not losing to the type of units they're making.
Well, we got a Liberator coming out as well for Bunny. So, I mean, if this was a Warp Prism build from MaNa, and I mean, he could still get one, but obviously it's not dependent on it, that would be a problem. Like, the Cyclone plus the Liberator catching it, that would have probably died. But as it's not, Bunny should be sending it across the map to deal a little bit of damage and a little bit of scouting. MaNa actually takes a 3rd base, and that's, I think, totally appropriate. Like, he hasn't gotten much scouting, so he doesn't know that for sure, but, in fact, any scouting at all. So in that situation, it is a bit dangerous, but... for what Bunny's actually doing, he wouldn't be pushing out soon anyway. That 3rd will get up, it'll get a lot of probes, and they're both going to go into a macro game.
So, real quick, by the way, I've just realized something with this whole life situation due to a tweet somebody just made at me.
What's up?
Do we take back the title from the big one, since he did win our first ever big tournament?
Well, people brought that up with the GSL, too, and everyone was like, no.
It actually kind of sucks. I never considered, like, our first tournament feels a bit tainted.
Well, That's the thing about match fixing. So they'll confirm which ones are which, and sometimes even the players will admit to it. Like, when did you match fix and how did you? But no one will ever fully trust that list. They'll always be like, oh, did he do it versus this one again?
Well, I like Naniwa made a funny ass tweet this morning too. He's like, did I suddenly win? I am New York now or whatever. Like,
yeah, right.
like, how is that actually gonna affect? Like, there's just no first place anymore. That's just it. Like, they just cut that out of the record, the history book.
I don't remember. I feel like they did something with Savior, but I don't remember. I know that they weren't they didn't award the second place player a first place. That never happened. 99% sure on that one, but I don't know if they I think they might have scrubbed them from the record halls. Like, there used to be
just take the portrait off the wall.
Yeah, actually, yeah, exactly. Like, they take the portrait out of the slot or whatever because it's disgraceful.
Oh, interesting. All right, quick shout outs to Ropotron. Thank you for resubbing, by the way. The Liberator's not getting a lot done. The Pylons are in pretty good position, so I don't know that Bunny really has a lot of wiggle room here. But for MaNa's sake, the Warp Prism's coming up. He is double forging it, and he's got a third base. So for both players, we're already seeing a much more macro-oriented game than we did in that last series, or the last game. Obviously more so for Bunny than MaNa, but the fact that MaNa's playing the tech game tells me he's playing for the long game.
Yeah. Bunny, he went for that really safe opener with only the slightest bit of harassment, and harassment didn't do anything. The Liberator's still stuck in the back. So, he laid upgrades for that with a third CC coming down as well, and he won't be doing a push until he has at least stim, probably combat shields as well. Oh, it's up the observer. So that's a lot of time for Bunny, or MaNa, to get what he wants, which in this case is going to be pretty fast Storm and Charge. When you consider that he's getting all four of these upgrades at the same time, that's a little weird looking on the production tab. That's a lot of gas, but he had that big burst in economy from that pretty early third Nexus, rather.
Yeah.
But, the same way that he's teching pretty hard, Bunny is too. Bunny's already getting to a fusion core.
Yeah, Liberator range is going to be a real problem and a struggle to tackle. But quick shout-outs to I'm Rookie for the resub. Or sorry, excuse me, Lazy J for the resub. But also, I'm Rookie donated $5 just now, triggering a bit of music. Says $5 going towards White. Next donation goal, saved eyebrows or shaved.
Yeah, I'm not that crazy.
I think we're only going to let ourselves get mutilated by stream to a certain extent. We have to draw the line somewhere. Like, how long until people are starting to vote for piercings and things? Like, no, thank you. Nice pick up on the medevac, by the way. This will force a fight in the middle of the map, and Force Field's going to absolutely make sure these Marines and Marauders do die. It's going to cost MaNa a Stalker, but really, that was it. A Stalker. Bit of energy, too, but not bad. Not bad at all.
Yep. That was pretty nice. But Bunny, I mean, again, his harassment's been shut down, but his harassment has not been the main point of this game. He had his own third CCs, getting his own upgrades, and he's getting to that Liberator count, which I'm quite worried for MaNa, it's still a passive enough game with him getting his fourth base for him to try and get up to the Stargates, but it's always going to be expensive to add in Tempest to your composition, and ideally just, you wouldn't have to. You'd already have killed the Terran, but the Liberator count is getting beyond the point of, well, Storms and Stalkers in the correct position can take care of it. It's like, once it gets up to 8+, it's just going to do a lot of damage no matter what. It's already at 7.
Alright, well, Stalkers are going to be taking a fight in the middle of the map. Bunny does have the bigger army supply, but that Storm was looking to have something to say about that. Got a little bit scary. Yeah, nothing to heal up this. He can't even stim some of these units anymore. The Liberators get removed immediately from play. The Archons are just having a field day splashing these units down. Zealots charging in the last couple of units. And Bunny, funny enough, still has a supply lead and has a really fortified position. But that was a great fight from MaNa, who did come into that, let's again remember, at a supply deficit.
Yeah, damn. What an odd little fight to have in the middle of the map. But once again, this is still a macro game, and the 4th Command Center versus 4th Nexus, I guess they both have time to recover from that. But Bunny, it looks worse for him, still doing better in the army supply and in the Liberator counts. Because, the 2 Liberators that even were engaged in that battle, they actually survived. And he's still building at least 2 at a time. Should be building 3.
By the way, we've had a ton of the 50-cent donations coming in for the actual prize pool. Oh, hold that thought for now. We got the fight come down as the Liberators are a little out of position initially, but they do siege up, and this forces a fight out of MaNa. Walking back through a liberation zone is going to cost you so much more than if you just stood your ground to fight.
Yeah.
It's a hard decision to make, and obviously you want to bring the majority of your units back, but I mean, if that Archon's so far deep, just give the extra hit. Like, it's not getting out of there alive.
Right.
I love the way he's been shuttling the Templar around, by the way. Very slow units, usually easily picked off. A couple units stem forward. So the Warp Prism actually keeps this nice and safe and sound. He storms, has to go through Liberation Zones to do so, but takes out the majority of the BIOS. Now the Stalkers blink to the left. They get out of range of the Liberation Zones. They are going to be able to pick these off from behind. A new Warp is going to come in to reinforce this as well.
The ground army is just not not supporting the Liberators. It's vice versa. Like,
it's not complimenting the Liberators. I think it's a better way to phrase that. Because I mean, with the Storms, it's not like they're saying, well, you know what, we could have, but we didn't. Like, the Storms are really shutting a lot of this down.
I'm still so surprised at how quickly they're shutting it down, though. Like, usually, especially if there's enough Marauders in there, they'll take a few hits. The splits will be there, but
MaNa's starting to spiral a bit here. Even with that planetary down, that wasn't finished in time to stop the main push. MaNa's going to keep picking off these hard to replace things like the Medivacs. And I guess that's another aspect, too, because he had put so much dedication into Liberators. There really isn't a lot of Medivac coverage this game.
He's going to lose his 4th base. There's nothing to repair it. There's nothing to save it. It's like, the Bunny.
You know what? Only 4 Medivacs have died this game, but that's 100% of the Medivacs that have died this game. I think that has a lot to do with why these Storms are getting so wickedly out of hand.
Yeah, I guess the same way that I was putting a lot of emphasis on the Liberators, I guess Bunny was as well, but he's yet to find a position that was too abusive.
So, one of the aspects of this, though, that I really want to go back for MaNa for a second, because Bunny was doing the Liberators correctly. You kind of spread them out, you fan them out, you do the leapfrog forward. That's the way to use them, sure. But MaNa leaving the Templar in the Warp Prism allows him to even drop them into the Liberation Zone, and they can cast Storm before dying. So, I mean, this is a really cool tactic that is, I'm not sure, intentional, but working because of that. Because we watched him unload those Templar. They died immediately, but not before storming.
I think the other part of this might be that it simply was Bunny moving out too soon. He moved out in the middle of the map without Medivacs. He lost that big chunk of bio. Okay, he could recover from that. But then he moved onto a 4th base, yet again losing a big chunk of bio. And I wonder if he had just waited until he had maybe like a 180 supply, play it more like you would as a slower mech player, then he would have done better.
I think some of that too has to deal with the base in which he chose to expand to, right? Like if he had taken this one as a planetary, this probably would have been so much easier to defend. His army's already right here. But this one is so much further exposed, is so much further away. Storm's gonna come down once again, only 1 Medivac already out of energy, just cannot, like, for Bunny, the aspect here isn't necessarily that he can't eat a Storm, he can't stim.
Yeah, I think this is a really big problem. Like, the Liberator count has always been a scary, like, timer for Protoss. Once they get above 8, it's like, oh my god, what do I do unless I have Tempest? Which, MaNa had a bit of a panic moment. Like, he quickly sat down 2 Stargates and he realized the Liberator count was getting high. But this is actually a problem of bio and Medivacs and having anything to support the Liberators.
So here's the question, though. Because it's going to be costly, would it be better to have 2 Ghosts in play than 5 Medivacs if it means there's no Storms? Like, it's a hard decision to make, and for Bunny, I'm certainly sure he's not thinking of that because the focus goes towards those Liberators. But MaNa is just in such control of this game, constantly down in supply, but up in everything else.
That was my other point about waiting to take a 4th base and waiting to move out, was that he could have maybe added on, Ghosts to make the perfect army, rather than just a mass amount of Liberators.
So Bunny finally has something to go well for him. He does pick up the Warp Prism mid-warp in on the top of his main, so he doesn't have to worry about anything over there. But Benya 23 just reset for 6 months, and also I gotta give another shout out too. I would prefer not to. He donated $20 to the prize pool of the tournament, now bringing the grand total up to $274, almost at $300 for a once-off cup type thing. I love these Matcherino cups, Zombie Grub. We get the players so much money.
We do. So we finally have Bunny catching up on at least one of the +3 weapons, but MaNa's at 3-3, and he's been doing such great control with his main army. Here's the position that Bunny was looking for earlier, though, like something that was on a ramp, that, like, you know, his army was actually healed for once with enough Medivacs, and he's gonna actually cut off MaNa from his 5th base.
But I think the problem still remains, like, okay, there's Medivacs in play finally, but they all had so much work to do healing. The army's not healed up. They're out of energy, so no feedback's necessary, and now Storm's going to blanket the army once again.
If he could escape, though, and he has an opportunity to, then just wait it out.
Liberation Zone range is harsh. It's savage, and that's what we're witnessing right now. That's what the Tempests are really meant to do, is just push back those Liberators, because MaNa can certainly fight the ground. Funny thing is, though, that base going down and the pylons as well, that was actually going to be what supply blocked him here.
Yeah, a little bit funny.
Oh, these Zealots going to
It's
find
also-
nothing to stop them up here as well, by the way.
A couple Liberators come in, you can pull the SCVs. Oh, the army's being chased. So I was going to say, what is a little bit funny is that MaNa, even though he's been having such great fights, he is starting to get a little low in his own cash. That's why you
True,
need that Zealot
yeah.
run by and that base. So he does plan it back down because he has a bit of a bank. But finally, Bunny, who I guess is not max, although he was getting closer to it a minute ago, is now finding it to afford Ghosts. I wonder if that's too late, though, because now the bigger problem is the Tempests.
Right, and unfortunately, with so many Marauders in play, there's not really that much bio to actually pick off said Tempest. Now, one gets caught, and that's nice, but doesn't even go down. All the medevacs picked off once again. MaNa, I think MaNa's picked up on this too. I think he knows full well that's why these storms are doing so well early on. These Templar, by the way, there's no bio that's going to support this.
Yeah. Why is Siege the Liberators there? They're just gonna get picked apart. I guess he really wanted to kill all the Templars, which he killed all the ones on the front. There's a couple trailing behind.
Yeah. One decent storm's going to do a lot of damage. The Archon on the right side goes down, but not before dealing a ton of damage itself.
Well, that's
Bunny's army supply is kind of coming to a halt. And Bunny, I mean, the other thing is we haven't gone over graphs this game, but look at that income advantage, by the way. It's been painted blue. It's like someone put a streak of blue and it's just been bleeding over the paint line this whole game.
Yeah. I mean, MaNa has had consistent mining off of at least 3 bases, now down to 2, but then just getting the 5th base back up.
Zealot denial up here, by the way. That sucks.
Oh, DT's starting to come in as well. Bunny has finally lost this game, but I'm surprised for how hard he was losing the individual battles that he even lasted 18 minutes.
Yeah, this game went pretty nuts for a lot of different reasons, but I don't think we've really... everyone hates us for, like, the guys who point out mistakes all the time, right? Whatever, I don't care, because for this, it was a huge deal. The medevacs versus Storm dynamic, there's so much emphasis on getting Liberators out, because they're Liberators good units. You know, it's what makes everyone cry about the balance of the game when it comes to Terran right now. But truth be told, medevacs are really what wrecked... It just wrecked Bunny this game.
Yeah. I'd never cared so much about seeing medevacs die than when those Tempests started to pick them off. Like, you knew that was a huge deal. And I mean, Bunny, like, he had times where he didn't notice, where he did notice. It's,
These are good moves out of Bunny, though, in his death throws. Because he knows that the army's big, but it's slow, so they can't necessarily keep up with drops. But he can't also keep up with
this one Marine. This bunker.
By the way, Wardy hosted us. I'm sorry I missed that, so thank you to Wardy. I don't know what you're casting for, man, but I hope you had a good time, because he just hit us up with 440-something viewers. Nicely done, Wardy. And, of course, if you guys are just joining us, for whatever reason, this is the semifinals of the Matcherino Cup.
Well, Bunny, as you said, had some cool moves in his death throws, but it was his death, and he is dying now as his last army takes on the Tempest army of MaNa and Storms as well. GG.
GG. All right, MaNa will tie up the series 1-1. We're also going to hop into a small ad break as Bunny gets to pick the third and final map in this series. Reminder that we have Keen versus TLO coming up after this, and of course you guys should definitely get involved with the Matcherino page. I don't know if we've used up the patrol codes yet, but whether you're willing to donate a couple of your own real dollar bills or maybe just 50 cents for free, make sure to check out that Matcherino page. We're up to $274 so far. But we'll be back in 2 minutes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for contributing. We'll see you soon. Alright, folks, we're just going to hop right into the game. Skip the intro as we get into map number 3 here for the Matcherino Weekly Cup. This is the semifinals. The winner of this will go on to fight against the winner of TLO and Keen. We have a best of 3 other semifinals and a best of 5 finals to still cast. So buckle on in. We got some good games still ahead of us. Spawning here, though, in the bottom left side of the map, he is going to be the blue Terran, Team Liquid's Bunny.
In the top right, as the red Protoss, it's Liquid MaNa.
Do you know how weird it is for me to just, like, have to hold back on saying the last Terran in the tournament for once?
Because he's not.
Right?
Right?
Keen on the other side, but it's just... Normally we only have one Terran, period. When we cast them, it's like, he's the only Terran, ladies and gentlemen, Lily Canadian.
Yeah, now we have 2 Terrans, a Protoss, and a Zerg. Balance has finally been achieved. The correct balance that favors Terran.
right? Actually, so my opinion is swaying on this, because I would say through all of HOTS, through all of Wings of Liberty, I had a really strong opinion that Terran was probably the hardest to play. So when you saw a really good Terran player play well, it was really representative of their skill, right? But I feel now that's I'm not going to call Terran easy by any means, but I feel like it's not necessarily the case anymore. We're seeing a lot more struggles when it comes to controlling like the new units and adding them to the army. Protoss maybe not so much, but Zerg certainly. I mean, I know I'm not talking balance. I'm not going to even try and get into it. I'm just trying to simply state that the other races have really been brought up when it comes to difficulty. And well, it's laughable to see like Roach Ravager all in, and you're like, okay, nice race, bro. Tearing up all these 2 base all-ins now that are kind of that equivalent level of like, nice job, bro. I personally think there's some balance issues, okay? I'm not going to try and persuade you here, but I like that the game looks better now in all aspects instead of just looking at it being like, yeah, only one guy had to work.
So
like there's that gif of the ping pong thing, right? Like with Robert De Niro.
Sure, I'm not saying that you're balance whining, but I do wonder about my own thoughts on it. Because I think like it was almost universally accepted that like it was harder to be Terran. That's why only Korean Terrans were good back in the day. And then things have really changed. You actually had like, the rise of foreigner Terrans and whatnot, and all of the expansions as well.
Fuck yeah.
But I feel like Zerg got really a lot harder after Heart of the Swarm. Legacy of the Void actually, I don't know, there's a lot of units, especially in the late game, to control, but I thought them having to learn about like splitting against Widowmine is actually very difficult, as someone who tried. And then Protoss is the race that got the hardest in Legacy of the Void. Like, Protoss and Heart of the Swarm was Liberty, I could have 2 hotkeys, and I could generally go to Colossus, and I'd make Masters. Like, no problem. But in Legacy of the Void, the first thing I noticed is how many hotkeys I suddenly had to have as Protoss. So I'm gonna give them that credit. As opposed to the Zerg. And then Terran's always the best race, no joke. No bias. Hashtag.
So we got Resonating Glaives coming into MaNa, by the way. As we talk about this game, I still kills me because I feel I hate to give credit to like one person for this, but he's really the only guy we've seen really make best use of it. Where Naniwa really showed us just how good +1 is versus Terran right now, opposed to Resonating Glaives. And obviously, if you can get both, you want to get both, and etc. etc. But like, I really feel in almost any given situation, if you're attacking early and quick, a Warp Prism paired up with like +1 weapons is going to be way better than a Warp Prism that has Resonating Glaives and no upgrades on these Adepts. Because no Terran player really goes combat shields first. It's almost always stim.
Yeah. Unless they know the all-in is coming, and then sometimes combat shields first is actually like a good way to go. But
yeah,
obviously Bunny does not. He saw a pylon in what is not really that like curious of a position, you know, just to kill Reapers or maybe a Marine push if that's what you're doing. So he's not going to try and scan to see what's going on. And unfortunately has no other real way to tell what's going on because, I mean, there's no Marine at the 3rd base, and even if there was, it still would be like around that time. So he's just got to defend without any prior knowledge. He does have Marines sort of covering the dark space here that Warp Prism would love to warp in unnoticed. So that's at least a little good, but the Adepts are unloaded and the warp in goes down, and yeah, the Marines can't do much about that.
Well, +1, Resonating Glaives, whatever the case may be, this, from MaNa, if he starts doing some fancy Warp Prism micro, I thought could have gone much better. He was relying on the transfer, but that's not carry him through this.
I really liked that Bunny pulled back initially, though. I think a lesser Terran would have pushed into that and then lost all the Marines. Like, maybe the Marauders survived.
I know I would have.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, pulling back, waiting for at least, like, you know, another round of production, but more importantly, the SCVs pulled as well, really stopped that. And, you know, you do have to note that Bunny had a pretty good build against this. Like, having this many bio units is pretty good. Oh, he misplaced his medevacs. But having this many bio units is already setting you up well. Like, you know, as opposed to a different build that gives you less units, but, you know, faster tech, faster medevacs. Something like that. But MaNa's not giving up. He is continuing to warp in Adepts, and he's going to try and start abusing the mobility of Adepts.
I'm surprised he actually didn't do this with the Pylon combination. It's something he's actually been quite well known to do that we've seen. The Marines so desperately want to kill that Warp Prism, and not a bad choice to try and prioritize it. It does pick up the Adepts, however. Other side of the map, I mean, it's really, or not other side of the map, the other side of the ramp, it's not really going too well here for MaNa. He has not been able to break this yet, but it's finally going to go down. Big warping, but that's a mistake.
Oh.
That was a huge mistake. Now the warp prism's here, though, so he's going to go.
He figured it was going to go down. Nice. It's actually less so that he figured it was going to go down, and probably that he wanted to start getting really fancy with double warp prism micro.
That time, yeah, well, first off, absolutely. If you're warping in 2 adepts over here and 2 adepts over here simultaneously, that's harder to respond to, of course, but the marine control of Bunny's been not bad going into this. That depot going back up is a big problem because MaNa was expecting to have the adepts all in the base by now. Unfortunately, less than a handful. He's not killing that many workers, and this is pretty dedicated. I mean, another warp prism's coming out. I guess the other one got sniped once more. The mothership core is on the way, but really, truthfully, MaNa's fallen a bit flat. He's fallen a bit short when it comes to this all in.
Yeah, it's actually failed. I think we can say it.
He's gonna try and take a third. Okay, so like he's gonna try to recover out of this, but this is something where I think Bunny, if he actually intentionally sticks on 2 bases and just all into himself, oh, he's got a 3rd command center. I take this back. But still, if he wanted to all in himself at this point, I think he'd have a much stronger all in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 21 workers it sounds like an impressive amount, but for the amount of adepts he had to use and the warp prisms, 20 adepts went down. We had 21 SCVs. Wow. And that's where I think the problem really comes in. But, you know, Bunny doesn't have his upgrades yet. He doesn't have combat shields, doesn't have Martyr Slow. He does have +1, but I do like that he did not take that fight. If everything else was going well, if he had 2 more medevacs and combat shields, I think you take the fight, but otherwise, no.
I like that you can just pick up over to Adept Army like that. Like, there's nothing to shoot your medevacs, and that's not something I think anyone's used to, right? You're so
right?
used to
After so many Blink Stalker attacks and Heart of the Swarm, they got used to that.
Ooh, I'm surprised he committed. If he had got to the top of the ramp, I thought for certain MaNa would committed to this, but I guess satisfied to walk in now with that 2nd shade. There is going to be a Liberator to help a bit, but I feel like that bio is a little too strong.
Combat Shield still isn't done,
5
so the Marines would go down pretty quickly. The Marauders, though, are the ones that are staying alive, and they're still slowly but surely getting through this Adept army.
MaNa's got Blink finishing up, too. I'm starting to wonder if he's going to get some Stalkers in here to pick off the Liberator. I mean, this is Perseverance shining as he starts killing quite a few workers now.
Yeah.
So he had not done much early on.
Well, 21 over a long period of time with 3 CC, you know, added up to even workers. But suddenly 23 in less than 30 seconds, that's where this looks really bad. As Bunny's now down to straight up 20 workers.
The warp prism goes down again, but this is where I get worried because MaNa's going to come out of this. Okay, he's killed some workers, great, but his army supply is non-existent. There's going to be an Immortal, maybe a... Actually, did the Mothership Core die? No, she's still alive. So there's going to be a Photon Overcharge or 2. But there's really no units. Even if he warps in continuously from now until Bunny's attack, it's going to be like 30 supply to 60.
I love this too. Like, Bunny knows this, and he's not going to try and give... He's going to make sure that MaNa doesn't have enough time to get another army, because his economy would eventually give him enough to have a decent hold. But you boost over your medevacs, you go into the main base too, so you don't have to deal with the photon overcharges that he's probably planted down in the front of the Nexus.
Oh, you know what?
Your army is going to win.
Just kill the Robo. The Immortal is soaking all the hits from the Liberator, but that doesn't last very long. The Pylon gets targeted immediately by the Marauders. That stalls out the 2nd Immortal from coming into play. Liberator providing great cover for this drop, securing the landing zone. Twilight Council is going to go down too, and MaNa just has nothing to fight with. I mean, he dedicated so much to the other side of the map, and it looked like it was going well. He killed so many workers after all, but Liberator sets up on the ramp. Stalker's going to blink down, but they'll still go down. I mean, the Liberator's not the power here. It's the Marauder count, each of them having almost a medevac each dedicated to them.
Yeah. And this will still be a game in favor of Bunny. Despite taking all of the CV losses, it just didn't add up to enough, basically, for MaNa to recover. Now, what's funny is most of course getting a lot of free damage, but there is the tap out.
Make Terran great again! Liquid Bunny, ladies and gentlemen, we'll head on to the finals, where, of course, he will fight either a TVZ or a TVT. We're going to find out which, though, as we hop to the other semifinals. Keen versus Tilo has been waiting, so we don't want to keep them waiting for too much longer. We're going to get this first lobby set up on Invader. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll see you guys soon for the first game in this best of 3.